Too good, Maverico here. Welcome to podcast episode number 81. Having goals can be life changing. You know, it's hard to overestimate the impact that goals can have. A lot of people are afraid of setting goals because when you set goals for yourself, you're kind of also at the same time setting up the parameters for failure. That now if you don't achieve this goal, now you have failed and you know you have failed because you didn't achieve it. Whereas if you're just a very wage, wage, I'm sorry, what's the word I'm looking for? Vague. If you're very vague about it and wishy-washy, it's really foggy, and you don't really have any specific goals. Now it doesn't have to feel that bad if you fail because you didn't really try. So, you know, a lot of people think that that's a good excuse for not having goals, but I think that logic really doesn't add up. I think it's the other way around. I think that even if you have goals, and even if you fail at achieving them, you will still most of the time you will still be better off than if you did not have any goals at all. That's what I think. Of course, there are different scenarios and levels to it. Where if you get too obsessed about a goal, it might be unhealthy. If there are some really extreme scenarios. But overall, I think having goals is just extremely healthy for the vast majority of the cases. And Jordan Peterson talked about this as well, and he really explained it well. When it comes, I've been thinking about the same thing for years myself, but I've never been able to articulate it the way he did. And a lot of people that don't have goals, they are miserable and depressed. And I think it is because if you don't have a goal, you're kind of pulled in all directions. And problems that might seem small to a man with big goals, those small, trivial problems, can become mountains of a problem. It can appear like a mountain of a problem because he doesn't really have a goal to kind of pull him through, you know. And a few years ago, I heard Anthony Robbins talk about people that usually became drug addicts. I think he also mentioned alcoholics. People that often ends up as drug addicts is usually people that don't have strong goals or visions for the future. They don't really have a goal and a direction they're going for with clear specific goals. They're kind of like just fleeting and going here and there and don't really have any solid direction in life, so to speak. And then they easily ends up in situations like that. I found a few quotes about goals. When a man's why is strong enough, he can bear almost anyhow. And here's another one. Give a man a purpose and the ability to achieve it, and he will crawl over broken glass with a smile. Chris Williamson, you know, that's the thing. If you have a strong, meaningful, big goal or goals, it can help you in the here and now as well, not just when you achieve the goal. And if you achieve it, then it can make a positive difference in your life. No, it can also make a positive difference here and now because now you have a stronger purpose and vision and goal, a direction to go for. So it can trivialize or kind of it puts things into perspective. If you're surrounded by a bunch of problems, but you have a strong goal for the future and a plan to achieve it, and it's meaningful, and gives you a strong sense of purpose. Now those problems and circumstances that might have caused you to kind of crumble under the pressure, now that you have a strong goal, you just kind of just plows through it without it affecting you nearly as much as it would have affected you if you didn't have any goals at all. Here's another quote. What man actually needs is not a tensionless state, but rather the striving and struggling for a worthwhile goal, a freely chosen task. Viktor Frankl, Man's Search for Meaning. What man actually needs is not a tensionless state. A lot of people seems to think that a tensionless state with no tension, no stress, that's what people need. But when it comes to stress, Tim Ferriss talks about it in the 4-Hour Workweek. There's actually 2 types of stress. Distress, which is the unhealthy one, and the negative form of stress. But there's also eustress, which is kind of like, I think it's a Greek prefix for healthy, like euphoria. And the seldom mentioned opposite, dysphoria, or euphoria, the positive one. And eustress, healthy stress. And you know, what man actually needs is not a tensionless state, but rather the striving and struggling for a worthwhile goal, a freely chosen task. What man actually needs, you know, maybe that's what a lot of people actually needs. A lot of people that might find themselves in tremendous emotional or psychological trouble or pain. What a lot of them might need is maybe a worthwhile goal, a freely chosen task, a purpose, a strong meaning, you know. There's a lot of talk about happiness these days. A lot of people talk about happiness like it's the most important thing in life. It's not, absolutely not. It is extremely important, yes, but it's not the most important thing in life. There are more important things than happiness. God, meaning, purpose. Here's some other quotes about goals and goal setting that might be of inspiration for you and might explain some of the things that I have in mind, you know. People with goals succeed because they know where they're going. Earl Nightingale. Without goals and plans to reach them, you're like a ship that has set sail with no destination. Fitzhugh Dodson. Happiness lies in the joy of achievement and the thrill of creative effort. Franklin D. Roosevelt. Franklin D. Roosevelt. Yeah. Without a vision, the people perish. Goal setting is the most important aspect of all improvement and personal development plans. It is the key to all fulfillment and achievement. Paul J. Meyer. That one might be an overstatement, but in many cases, or in many scenarios, it's probably true. A year from now, you may wish you had started today. Karen Lamb. Goals are dreams with deadlines. Diana Scarf. I don't care how much power, brilliance, or energy you have. If you don't harness it and focus it on a specific target and hold it there, you're never going to accomplish as much as your ability warrants. Zig Ziglar. To win the race, you have to be in the race. You know, a lot of people are living their lives kind of like they're on the sidelines and not really going for it. If you want to be happy, set a goal that commands your thoughts, liberates your energy, and inspires your hopes. Andrew Carnegie. You know, Andrew Carnegie was a steel magnate, one of the richest people in the world. I think he was ranked as the world's second richest person at one time. About what is it? Probably like 150 years ago, something like that. Let me repeat it. If you want to be happy, set a goal that commands your thoughts, liberates your energy, and inspires your hopes. Andrew Carnegie. If that's true, if you want to be happy, set a goal that, if that's true, of course he might be wrong. Just because a guy was super rich doesn't mean that he's right on everything that he says. But according to a lot of people, one of the keys to being happy is to have a strong goal and working towards achieving it. But if that's true, and if we then always invert, like Charlie Munger used to say. Okay, so if you want to be happy, you should set a goal. Then what should you do if you want to be miserable? If you want to be miserable, I guess you should, if you want to be miserable and not happy, I guess you should not set a goal that commands your thoughts, liberates your energy, and inspires your hopes. So yeah, if you want to be miserable, I guess you should not set goals, especially not big, exciting, meaningful, purposeful goals that excites you. I guess you should not do that. And I guess you should not have hopes either if you want to be miserable. You know, something to think about. Success is the progressive realization of a worthy goal or ideal. Earl Nightingale. You can set a direct course for your future by defining your goals, or you can take the opposite position and just let the future haphazardly unfold by itself. Catherine Pulsifer. Pulsifer. Catherine Pulsifer. You miss 100% of the shots you don't take. Wayne Gretzky. The future belongs to those who believe in the beauty of their dreams. Eleanor Roosevelt. Yeah. Goals. If you don't set goals and if you just work hard, isn't that enough? Is it really? What's the point of having a goal? Can't you just work hard, do your best, be disciplined, and then you will basically just achieve the same thing as you would achieve if you did have a goal. But if you have a goal, now you have just a lot of extra stress in your life, and you might be really disappointed and heartbroken if you don't achieve it. So a goal is actually just infusing a bunch of negative things in your life. You might think something like that. A lot of people seem to think that way, but I think that's wrong. Like I said, I think that in most cases, the impact of having a goal, even if you fail at achieving it, I still think you will be better off than if you did not have any goals at all. That's what I think. And once you have a goal, of course, when you choose your goals, you need to do it the right way. Something that is the right thing to do, something meaningful, purposeful, something that excites you, something that if you achieve it, it will make a positive difference. And of course, you can have multiple goals and for different areas of life. And also, when it comes to goals, how big should you set them? Of course, if you set the goals way too big, it can become unrealistic. And in those cases, how practical and helpful is it going to be? But I think most of the time, I think the trap most people are falling into is setting their goals too low. And it also seems to be a thing that most people overestimate what they can do in 1 year, but underestimate what they can do in 1 decade. That really seems to be a thing, something to keep in mind. Long-term and short-term goals, also something to keep in mind. I think you should have both long-term goals, mid-term goals, and short-term goals, and try to set the goals and then kind of reverse engineer what you need to do in order to achieve them. Years ago I used to set like extremely high goals for myself, but it got to the point that it was kind of getting silly because it was like wild, like wildly unrealistic, to the point that I kind of subconsciously knew that, oh, this is so unrealistic that it's probably not going to happen. And in those cases, with those goals, I think it can, yeah, in some cases be counterproductive, where you should. I still think it's in many cases better than no goal, but my point is it should be something that you think you can achieve. Anthony Robbins has has what's it called? He has this concept that he calls the success or failure cycle. Jim Rohn used to have something very similar. Basically, that if you believe you can do something, if you have a strong belief slash certainty, then you are using more of your potential and you're taking more action because you really believe it's going to work. You have a strong belief it's going to work. So yeah, you take more action. And when you do that, you tend to get better results. And when you get better results, it improves your belief or feeds your belief and certainty even more. Now you're using even more of your potential and taking even more action, getting even better results, getting even stronger belief for it. And then you kind of find yourself in a kind of upward spiral of achievement, success cycle. But it works the other way around as well. So if you don't have a belief, you're not really certain about achieving your goal, you don't have a belief that you're going to achieve it or that you can achieve it, you're likely to use less of your potential and take even less action, not take that massive action. And then you're also likely to get worse results, even bad results in many cases. And when you get bad results, you're likely to get even less belief, use even less of your potential, and it can be a downward spiral. So yeah, you should have a belief that you can achieve your goal. So, yeah. Anyway, this is not a goal setting workshop. I guess I guess I should make a podcast episode about a goal setting workshop. But this is just a kind of inspiration or motivation about having goals and how it can be life changing. A lot of people that changed their life, it started with a goal. Of course, not for everyone, but for a lot of people, it started with a goal. It's hard to hit a target that you don't even have. Imagine going to some target practice and just shooting out into the air. How are you going to hit something if you don't even know what you're trying to aim for? You know. So yeah. But when it comes to a goal setting workshop, if you go to YouTube, it should still be there at the time of this recording. It's on YouTube. It's Jim Rohn goal setting workshop. At the moment, I think it's 3 videos, a 3-part video. Jim Rohn goal setting workshop, something like that. It's an old school video of Jim Rohn on a seminar or something like that, where he had a goal setting workshop. Really inspiring and pretty solid stuff. So if you want to set goals, I highly advise you to check that out. All right. Face the future with anticipation, not apprehension or trepidation. When it comes to me personally, I can at least honestly say that despite me having failed so much, it's wild how much I failed. It's a shame. I've been through like 3 decades of failure. It's crazy. But despite all that, I can still honestly say that setting goals and having goals has truly been life changing for me. Even when I failed at them, I have achieved some of them, But even despite having failed at a lot of them, I still think that the net impact has been positive. And even if you fail at something, you can also look at what direction are you trending. Even if you fail, are you trending in the right direction? Sometimes you might fail, but I mean, my point is that even if you failed, in some ways, maybe you also made some progress, or maybe you set yourself up for a future success in some ways. I'm not promoting failure, but when you look at the journey of a lot of successful people, it's oftentimes that they went from failure to 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 massive success. That's oftentimes the journey for a lot of people. It's not like they're starting out in life, they're finishing primary school, success, 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 bigger success, bigger success. It's just like it's like an upward path. They're continually just achieving more and more and more and never failing. Nah, for a lot of people, it's not that way. Of course, there are people that go from success to success with no really big failures, but for a lot of people, it is a path of failure to failure to failure, and suddenly they hit it big. It's like a massive success. And when it comes to the world of business and entrepreneurship, it's often the case that you only need to be right once, and you can set yourself up for for life financially. Failing forward. So yeah, having goals can be life changing, and who knows if you set some goals for yourself today or this week, who knows what your life is going to look like 90 days from now, 6 months from now, 1 year, 5 years, 10 years from now. Imagine what your life is going to look like. It might be a tremendous difference. Anthony Robbins has this quote that it's in the moments of decision that your destiny is shaped. Some decisions you take can shape your destiny to a tremendous degree. One of those decisions is definitely what goals you set for yourself. And maybe you can't change your destination overnight, but you can definitely change your direction overnight. And a small change in direction, it might not even be noticeable after 1 day, 1 week, 1 month. But as that path moves along, after a few months and a few years, it's like it's like a total different destination. Just from setting a goal and changing your direction slightly, setting a goal and pursuing it. Another thing about having goals, I think you should review them often. Not just Don't just set goals on New Year's Eve and don't look at it for oh, I failed, and the next December you set some new goals. No, try to set goals and review them often. Keep them in mind so that you keep yourself on track, and try to set up some daily habits or some daily and or weekly atomic habits. The book Atomic Habits by James Clear massively impacted and changed my view on habits. There's a lot of positive things to be said about habits, but what James Clear really pointed out in his book Atomic Habits was the importance of also setting habits that are connected to the goals you have in mind. Reading 20 minutes a day, going for a walk, exercising, eating healthy, taking an ice bath, whatever it might be. Goals like that can be great. I mean, habits like that can be great. It can definitely have a positive impact on your life, but those are not really directly connected to a goal you're trying to achieve. So, for example, if you have a goal of publishing your own book, going for a 20-minute walk is not really does not really have much to do with your goal of writing a book. It might still be a great thing to do, but it's not really connected to that. And what James Clear explains in his book is that you should set atomic habits that are connected to your goal. So with the book writing example, if you want to publish your own book, maybe you would set a goal for yourself that you would spend 20 minutes every day fully focused on writing for your book, for example. All right. And things can change fast, especially, maybe you find yourself in a horrible situation at the moment. Maybe you have failed for decades. Maybe you have, like me, maybe you have failed for decades. Maybe you are one of the biggest losers that are in your family or at your workplace or at your school, whatever. Maybe people think that, but the thing is, things can change fast, especially in this modern world with the internet, AI, artificial intelligence, social media, with tools and resources like that. Things can change really fast. That's one of the fascinating things about several of the people I've interviewed for community cash cows. I've been interviewing a bunch of real life success stories of people that are making at least $10,000 in profit per month from a paid community. And the thing is, that really surprised me with several of them was how quickly they went from starting from zero until they got to over $10,000 in profit per month. For several of these people, it was like just a few months, like about 2 to 3 months, and they were already at that mark, you know. So even though I failed myself a bunch in the past, real life success stories still is real life success stories, And what one man can do, another man can do. So a lot can happen in 90 days. And imagine what your life might look like. For example, if you set a goal to build a paid community or something like that, 90 days, 6 months, you know, maybe a lot can change. And imagine what your life could look like if you were making at least $10,000 in profit per month. Maybe even 20, 30, $40,000 in profit per month. Imagine the kind of lifestyle you could squeeze out of something like that. Only $40,000 in profit per month. You know, only it's in one way it's a lot of money, but in another way it's not really tens of millions of dollars. If you compare it that way, it's actually not that wild of a number. So $40,000 in profit per month is not really that much, but at the same time, compared to the average wages in most parts of the world, it's a lot higher. 40K a month is a lot higher. And just imagine the kind of lifestyle you could squeeze out of something like that. Tim Ferriss talks about the freedom multiplier, the 4 Ws, where you have the freedom to choose what to do, when to do it, where to do it, and with whom to do it. The 4 Ws, the freedom multiplier. And if you're making like $40,000 in profit per month, you could probably choose those things. Maybe you could, live where you want to live, drive what you want to drive, wear what you want to wear, spend your days the way you want to spend your days, start building your dream team, being productive, doing meaningful things, maybe even, you know, give some away, help some, you know, making a difference. Exciting stuff. Anyway, if you're interested in learning more about paid communities, I highly advise you to check out communitycashcows.com. All right. God bless.